Next topic is articulating. Articulation is a very important stage of speech production. Once we have organized our thoughts into linguistic plan, then this information needs to be sent from brain to the muscles in the speech system so that they can then execute the required movements and produce the desired results. So after the thoughts are formed, then that information is sent from brain to the speech system or the muscles in the speech system so that the required sounds are created once the message is uttered. There are two types of speech articulation, the primary and the secondary. The primary refers to 1. The place and manner in which the stricture, which is how closely the speech organs approach one another, the stricture is made for the consonants. Or you can say the second one is to do with the tongue contour, lip shape, height of larynx to produce vowels. The secondary articulation very often have approximate stricture, and they also include palatalization, labialization, glottalization and nasalization. Now there are three systems of muscles. One is respiratory, second is laryngeal, and third is supralaryngeal. The first, which is the respiratory system, it regulates the flow of air from the lungs to the vocal tract. The respiratory system basically is responsible for the regulation of the flow of air from the lungs to the vocal tract through the act of producing speech, beginning by air being pushed out of the lungs. This is accomplished by the action of several muscles near the rib cage that have combined effect of lifting and enlarging the rib cage. Second is the laryngeal system, consists of the vocal cords or vocal folds, which are two bands of muscular tissue in the larynx that can be set into vibration. Now this system is responsible for the distinction between voiced and unvoiced sounds. For voiced sounds, the air expelled from the lungs is turned into acoustic energy by the action of the vocal cords. When a voiced sound is to be produced, the vocal cords are nearly touching one another, and when air passes over them, a suction effect that draws them together occurs. Once they have come together, however, there is no more airflow and thus no suction effect. This causes them to pull apart and release the tension that has built up beneath them. In contrast, when the sound to be produced is voiceless, air still passes over the cords, but they are too far apart for the suction effect to occur. The supralaryngeal system consists of structures that lie above the larynx, including the tongue, lips, teeth, jaw, and velum. These structures play a significant role in the production of speech by manipulating the size and shape of the oral cavity as well as the nasal cavity. Phonetic segments can be distinctly described in terms of the articulatory maneuver used to produce them. For example, D is produced by stopping the airflow temporarily by placing the tongue at the tip of the alveolar ridge. All the structures involved in speech production have other functions. The main function of the respiratory system is, of course, breathing. The teeth and tongue are used to chew and swallow food. The larynx operates as valve controlling the airflow and from the lungs in terms of its process. Now, coming to the motor control of speech, we have the anticipatory co-articulation and perseveratory co-articulation. Motor control of speech begins with motor commands from the brain. As we assemble a linguistic plan for our utterance, the brain structures responsible for speech production send message to muscles in the respiratory, laryngeal and supralaryngeal system. The concept of co-articulation is the phenomena that refers to the condition that the shape of the vocal tract for any given sound often accommodates to the shape needed for surrounding sounds. So this typically occurs for upcoming sounds, which are anticipatory co-articulation, but also may occur when a sound is influenced by previous sound, which means perseveratory co-articulation. Now, an example of anticipatory co-articulation is the rounding of the lips in the production of b in boo. Which anticipates the rounding needed for vowel u, as opposed to their formation in, for instance, bed, which is bed sound in not the oo sound. The result of co-articulation is the undershooting of target. When an articulator anticipation of an upcoming sound aims for a given location, it does not actually achieve it. The main reason appears to be the distance the articulators must travel to reach a series of rapidly changing targets. These observations suggest that it is not possible to describe the articulatory process fully in terms of the places in which segments are produced, because the shape of the vocal tract is constantly changing. To conclude, the production of speech is a complex process. Motor commands from the brain specify the target location for the articulators in the vocal tract. However, co-articulation indicates that the process of specifying targets is not context-free, but rather based on the preceding and following phonetic contexts.